I didn't notice the appointing authority scheduling a meeting, did they?
They did, and you were reappointed.
Oh.
So you're stuck.
They extended my my sentence. When did they do that? When did they meet?
I just got the email today.
Because usually if I'm up, then Mike, as co-chair, attends the meeting. All right, good evening, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order. We do not have a full board as of yet, but I imagine we can take care of the preliminary business. May 14th, minutes of May 14th. I'm marked down as being both present and absent, so I don't know how I did that. Was that one of,
Mr. Chairman, I was absent.
well, yeah, she references a comment I made, which I remember, and what was the dates of the 2 district meetings we had? That would have been March, right? April, rather. Yeah. April 9th. Yeah, so it's not that. Wasn't May 14th. Anyway, well, you okay with those minutes, Mike?
I'm good with the minutes. You know, I just want to note that I was late attending June 11th, so the portion that I was involved with was,
On June 11th, you were marked as late.
so as long as the rest of the minutes are in order for the times that I wasn't here. So John Deacus, Preservation Lane, Matthew Lunger, and I was good after that.
Okay, that's the June. I was looking at the May minutes. Did you look at,
Oh, the mayor, fine, yes.
would you care to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the May 14, 2018 minutes as written.
No, yeah,
That's, you were absent on that one,
yeah,
correct?
change the absent member from the chairman to me. I was absent.
Okay.
I did that. I'll second it, since you can't. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Opposed? Let's see. I know, do you have a copy for signing? And the June 11th? I was there, but I'm not listed.
It's in that folder over there.
Ah.
John wasn't here, was he?
Hmm?
Was John here on June 11th?
I don't believe he was.
Our new member was here.
Yeah, Mike was
Right.
here.
He wasn't.
John Cronin was not present, yeah.
No, he hasn't shown up. Since he tendered his resignation.
And also, on the second page, bottom of the page, Mr. Baptiste moves and seconds. I don't think that's correct.
What was that one again? Second page.
Bottom of second page.
You think you seconded that one
I
also?
think I seconded it, yeah.
And who was absent on the 11th? Just John?
I think so.
It's nice. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And Mike was here.
Mike King?
Mike King was here.
Would someone care to make a motion?
I move we accept the minutes as corrected.
Second,
Thank
June
you.
11th minutes?
All in favor?
Aye?
Opposed? Abstained? Very good. It's always good to get those out of the way. Next, we have John Deacon, Virgin Point Shores subdivision.
Mr. Chairman, I got a call from Steve Joso of SciTech, the engineering firm, doing this particular item, who asked for a postponement since he would be unable to attend tonight.
Had you been able to do any follow-up on that, Charlie?
Yeah.
And so what do they want, the July meeting?
Yes,
Is that the 9th?
the July 9th.
And that's... All right. Next, we have Jason Meechan. Did I say that right? 7 Arrowhead Drive, A&R. Arrowhead is, yeah.
Thank you.
What are we doing?
You want to come forward?
What I would like to do is purchase,
Have a seat in front of the mic.
I'm trying to do is purchase the proposed area from Cheryl Lindsay,
Mm-hmm.
and just add that on to my property.
I'm trying to get, okay, here we are.
What is he trying to do? Number 7?
Nine, it must be,
It's gonna be
it's
27.
supposed to be, that's 70.
The total square footage is gonna be 2,765 square feet.
It's marked as lot, it's
Proposed parcels.
Yeah, there's two parcels.
548 square feet of lot 7, 2217 of lot 7A,
Mhm.
A2. I'm trying to picture, Arrowhead is the one that parallels Cranberry Highway, kind of goes behind the restaurant?
It dead ends at the restaurant. It dead ends to Ella's Restaurant, and
Yeah.
it dead ends to her back lot, and what's the name of the other commercial building? Mazzilli's.
Oh, so we're over there.
So, yeah, it's directly behind Mazzilli's, directly behind, all adjacent to Ella's Restaurant.
So this is kind of the back corner of what she uses as a parking lot?
She
behind
does, this is not gonna impact her parking lot. This is just a wooded lot,
it? Mhm.
a section of a wooded, her piece. It's all
That goes up against Ella's, kind of?
correct, yeah. All the ways to 28.
Mhm. I
You're
think
going to,
I know where you are now, Simon.
Which is number 7?
7 is her lot that I'm trying to buy a piece of. Mine is 9.
Is it to the right of 9?
Yes, if you're standing in the street, it would be to the right of 9.
It's labeled 69 as parcel 69A? Just to get the, I'm not
The
sure I
new,
understand.
the new proposed lot would be 69A. So our lot is lot 69. the portion of the lot we're looking to purchase is part of Lot 70. 69A is the proposed.
It's listed here and on our agenda as Lot 7, but it should be Lot 70,
So
or your cre-
what he has is 69A is, what he's saying is the proposed lot. So Lot 70 is the lot that we're looking to purchase it out of, is Lot 70, which is the 2,217 square feet, and then Lot 7-1007 is the 548 square feet.
Is that the little pie-shaped piece that's between the two? That little 548
Yeah,
square feet?
yes.
Pieces in Pickle Street, George. It's a rectangular piece in front of the lot itself.
That's correct, yeah.
Oh, okay, I see it.
No, that Steve printed out.
Guess what's missing, between the line for your driveway and the fence line there, kind of obscures the actual lot line.
Yes, she has right now, there's a fence that goes all the ways up.
I think he's talking about this.
Okay, yeah, that wedge piece, yeah, that's mine, as far as I know, because it's, I mean, my bounds are inside of that, where he laid it out. Yeah, I don't know why that, I think it's just because he put, where the driveway is, I think he put that line there, and that makes that short little wedge piece. Find it. Just right here. Yes, it is.
She throwing in the shed?
It's a good shed, too.
Are you actually keeping the shed?
No, she wants it back. I told her she has to move it, though, if this goes through.
So 70 is a wood
I don't,
Lot 70 is a wooded lot?
Well, it's not like a wooded lot, but there's trees on the
There's-
property, so it's not like
I
an
think
area that she
those-
currently uses for like parking
Sure.
or anything.
key somewhere, is it?
Just for our understanding of this,
That might,
Lot 70 and Lot 71, there doesn't seem to be a property line between them. Charlie, what is that symbol of Z?
I think
That means
that's,
they're merged lots.
That simply means it's contiguous ownership. If you look at 70, 71, that little Z means that they're combined ownership, same owner. Same thing between 71 and the next 2 or 3 lots all the way out to Cranberry Highway.
I see.
It all has her name on it. Can't hear you very well, Charlie. I repeat that. Simply means contiguous ownership, that's all it means. Microphone on? Yes, it is. Maybe it isn't working.
any other questions from the board?
Seems simple. You're not changing the driveway at all, are you?
No.
Doll houses? Doll
Yes.
houses and
You-
playground?
Yes, exactly.
Seemed to be there was some chickens trying to escape from there the other day.
Yes, there was.
I was over at the garage, so I heard you herding them back in.
And you are purchasing that lot from the larger 70?
That's correct, yes.
Will you be combining them, or?
I would be combining my lot with this new lot, yes.
So there'll be more Zs there, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing further. Look for a motion to endorse.
I'd like to make a motion for the acquisition of parcel 69A to merge with lot 69.
I'll second that.
And to endorse the approved and not required plan.
Magic pen. Look at that. So motion's been made to endorse the formation of 69A and there was a second. So, all in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved.
Is it bedtime as well now?
Pretty soon.
Yeah, she's been at the beach all day. It's time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
She wants to stay. Next, we have release of surety for All-American, 300 Rosebrook. Seemed to me there was, what, one or two items remaining there on,
Oh, there was several items that were a part of a letter that I wrote a year ago. I inspected that back on the 22nd of May, and I wrote a letter to Ken and to you. I'm pretty sure I emailed it on Thursday. If I did not, I'll make sure to get it in his hands tomorrow, but everything is fine. There are some minor things around it that they could do for housekeeping, but it has nothing to do with the site construction. It's just a matter of raking out some of the gravel in the back where it got pushed up with snowplows during the winter, something like that. But it has nothing to do with the final construction or anything. They've taken care of all the items that were in that previous letter. So they should be good.
is that an insurance bond on that, Ken?
Yes, it is.
Does that require the selectmen's release also?
Since they voted it in, they have to release as well.
So I'd be looking for a motion to approve the release of surety for 300 Rosebrook Way.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the releasing of the surety bond at 300 Rosebrook Way.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. We have no continued public hearing tonight or any other business till we get to a discussion of the zoning articles for fall town meeting. And I believe Ken has a show and tell for us this evening. Want that set of lights off, or we'll be able to see it?
I think you'll be able to see it. I have to get it up on the screen first.
I might not be able to, though.
Went to sleep on me. There we go. Everything went to sleep on me.
See something, man?
All right, it's starting to come in now. Maybe if we turn off the car with bank lights. Can you see that, Bob?
Yes. Thank you.
All right. This is a continuing discussion on zoning articles for town meeting. We can have these for fall town meeting or potentially looking for spring town meeting of next year. And what the two things I wanted to discuss tonight was the West Wareham zoning map and the transfer of development rights, which have come up by suggestion of others. Back in 2006, 2008, the zoning map on the left was proposed to look like the zoning map on the right. And the big difference was to create a general commercial district along Route 28 and map the Wareham Crossing as planned commercial development. Since that time, the zoning has been changed for the general commercial district to allow drive-through restaurants. The big difference between the commercial strip and the general commercial that I see is that the general commercial does not allow residential development, except for mixed use buildings.
May I go over that a little bit, Ken?
Sure.
What we had originally was commercial strip up here, and then back then, you could do retail in the industrial zone. Since then, Wayham Crossing has been developed. What do they call it, Wayham Marketplace?
Marketplace,
Is
yes.
in the process of being developed. Walmart site has been developed, and that was all done grandfathered by previous zoning when retail was allowed. So what we tried to do back then was illustrate that Wayham Crossing is now a commercial development, it's no longer industrial. And since that time, we've had, the Walmart site, the Wayham Marketplace site, all should be depicted as either general commercial or commercial plan, which is what it is in reality. The other part of this is the industrial zone comes right up to Cranberry Highway. This is a site which restricts its retail use because retail is no longer allowed in the industrial unless it's an ancillary use to something you already have, which isn't the case at this point. So changing that to a more retail-oriented zone, I think would enhance development.
George, in that second diagram there, the Walmart site is not depicted as CP, right?
Right, that's
Oh.
Wayham Crossing, I believe.
It's depicted as CG in the front part of the property and industrial in the rear.
Why wouldn't it make sense to, does that CS strip include Walmart? It doesn't look as if it's deep enough.
No, this. This is the Walmart parcel coming back here. These are the three residential properties that were, or the two residential properties at the rear of the Wareham Marketplace.
The CS there, Charlie, is only on the east side of the road. On the other side is industrial.
Yeah, I wasn't concerned about the CS. That's the old strip commercial. What I was thinking about was the CP in the next picture there.
Oh, this also.
Why today? Why wouldn't you include that in there as a part of the CP district where Walmart is and where that remainder piece is that Robertson still owns?
Yeah, I would suggest we change that from industrial to what's on the ground.
Take it up to the Stroh's Folly Brookline, which is the division between all those parcels and where,
The Eversource
yeah,
solar farm is
yeah,
on Toby Road.
yeah.
Now, up above, at kind of the 12 o'clock, is that industrial? Does that line up with Patterson Brook on the other side of the road, or?
Patterson Brook comes in here
Oh, okay.
and extends down to these properties down here.
Mhm.
I think what we should be doing is looking at what's on the ground on the on this side, because I don't know if general commercial will necessarily fit with the transportation, the shipping company that exists there now at the entrance to Patterson's Brook.
You're talking the moving company or the repair, or both?
The cat dealer, right?
Yeah, you're talking about the old Galt Transportation site?
Oh, yeah, that too,
That's the trucking facility. It's where they store those trailers now, and I think J.P. Noonan might own those now.
That's the one, J.P. Noonan.
Yeah.
It's kind of a terminal slash repair facility, and I don't, how's that fit in with the use chart?
That, I don't think that necessarily fits in with the general commercial, the intent of a general commercial district. It'd be more in line with an industrial district. But as to whether or not it eliminated the business, of course, anything that got rezoned, an existing condition would be a pre-existing and protected against any zone change.
Mhm.
So we can think about what we're trying to accomplish here in the longer term, the change over time along Route 28.
So you're
think
talking, so we got the Wonder Bread place, we got the Wareham Pharmacy, we got Barboza's, all of this, right?
That's currently in industrial. I don't know if it goes all the way to Barboza's, but from,
Well, Barboza's directly opposite the trucking facility we're talking about, right?
yeah, it would appear it does, looking at the left-hand map. For some reason, I thought it stopped at the driveway to Great Hill, but I could be wrong. The map shows it differently. I think the only difference between CP and CG is design standards.
That's correct. A size requirement for enough area for planned commercial development and design standards that apply.
Ken, does it make sense to take the CP district all the way to Main Street? Now, you've got residential houses all the way from Toby Road all the way to Route 195 on the north side of Main Street there.
On this section here, and you have the Deca School across the across Main Street here.
Right.
These particular uses, it doesn't make as much sense to plan commercial unless there's an extension of the Wareham crossing towards towards Main Street.
I believe there is a piece of it that extends to Main Street.
There is.
Small section of it that was a part of the, I think it was the old Bliss property that extended to Main Street.
Yeah, it's basically a drainage structure, right?
It even goes beyond that drainage structure too, George.
Towards the overpass?
No, it's before, when you come down Toby Road and take a left, you've got the American Legion Hall, which is the old South Wareham School. It's either one or two houses beyond that. There's a gap in there, and there's a piece of that property that extends back to where that big drainage basin is.
I think that other slide showed it that way, didn't it?
Yeah, there's a little piece that comes in here that is an option to continue the zoning because it's part of the parcel of land.
That would make all of those houses on Main Street non-conforming. So if they ever wanted to do something, they'd have to apply
have-
for variances, right?
If you continued further up along the old rail line, or is that Main Street?
The rail line coming here.
Will you run into the same thing there? Is there some residential up there? Is there-
Down along Main Street, coming down along here.
No.
That piece of industrial does follow actually, it was the old Middleborough-Onset Street Railway line.
Yeah.
This is the railway line coming through here.
And that paralleled the railroad track. So it does not go out to Main Street there.
I think the streets I'm seeing up above is what I'm thinking of. There was some residential done where the trolley line meets the other end of Main Street.
Yeah,
Some
it
residential
doesn't
there.
go that far. It goes, the industrial area there goes behind all those lots.
Mm-hmm. I think I see the streets up there.
So what are your druthers? Would you like to do a little bit more of a study?
That other slide you just flashed to, was that? See, that shows A little different along Main Street. Shows,
The big difference in this one is it shows that instead of a CP, a planned commercial district, a commercial strip district over Wareham Crossing and Wareham Marketplace.
mhm. Yeah, I don't know the depth of those lots on Main Street. You could break them out and make them part of the, what is that, MR 60 there? On 30?
MR 30.
MR 30, yeah.
The Deacon's School is an MR 30 district. So looking at this, I guess what we do is study the uses in the general commercial district along 28 and look at the planned commercial district and see if it applies to future commercial center.
Well, one of the other problems with this is by changing that, it left a little wedge of commercial strip up here and over here.
Right, and that's what this one shows. The CG district coming through and splitting the commercial strip.
What I was getting at is it shows the lots as being industrial there along Main Street.
Right.
What are the options for a further study, Ken?
I think if you're interested in doing this, what we do is look at what the planned commercial means for the future of the Wareham Crossing and Wareham Marketplace, as well as potentially the Walmart site. And consider the uses along Route 28 and how they would fit into a general commercial district.
Would this rezoning be consistent with the master plan?
Yes, it would be in that it allows the continued development of this intersection of area of the two interstates, which has been a successful retail district.
The CG south of 195 was done. So I don't know that, because it always struck me that you could do some things on this side of 195 that you couldn't do on that side.
Yeah. That particular this area that George is talking about, it was rezoned, was at the same time in the same cluster of articles as the change that was proposed here. But it wasn't taken up by town meeting for a number of reasons.
I think my biggest consideration, just living in that part of town, is the increase of volume along Main Street. We can't, we'd have to reconstruct that whole road system there to handle any increased traffic. That three-way stop at the end of Toby Road, you know, turning left into Deacon's is so congested and busy all day long now. So what is the school committee doing with Deacon's? Have they decided yet?
I don't know if there's actually been an official vote on that yet.
Yeah, I mean, so is there some plan in the works to develop that commercially, that piece of property?
There's always been thoughts about the alternative use of that property.
So, I guess, for me to make a decision, you know, what's it look like 10 years into the future is, I would have to have some type of expert opinion, you know, via a study to say what would need to be done with the road system to flow that traffic down through Toby into Main Street. I got it, again, I go through that area 3-4 times a day. It's such an increased volume. And I can't, you know, the liquor store's going there, there's gonna be more traffic coming from the West Wareham districts into that liquor store, just ending their journey on Toby Road. So that would be my biggest concern. So the land, you know, the type of use that's there, but also what's gonna be needed for the infrastructure if we change this use? Because the whole idea here would be to open it up to a bigger potential market for development, right?
Well, as far as that side of the road goes, all you're doing is you're zoning it for what it is today. It's retail development now, so you would take it out of industrial and put it in either commercial, planned or commercial general. You wouldn't change any activity there or uses. In fact, you would help because the property where the liquor store is going actually got changed to commercial strip, which is out of character with all its surroundings. Except for is it 500 feet back from Cranberry Highway?
Yeah, it's 500 feet back from the sideline.
So I wouldn't go any further on that side than Stroh's Folly Brook, because everything from there to Patterson Brook is pretty much industrial. It's not a non-conforming use. Where Walmart, where Marketplace, parts of it are now non-conforming. And even William Crossing.
Because they're not allowed in an industrial district.
Is there a chance, Ken, to have a session or more than one session where this can be looked at in more detail, relationship to the residential? Is there a consideration for a hierarchy of uses, and is the focus strictly on the commercial? As Mark asked, is that consistent with the overall master plan?
Couple of steps here. One is that your level of interest in proceeding with this analysis, and then going through the analysis that would include what the development is going to be, what the development impact is going to be, well, not just on traffic, but also on utilities, infrastructure, and then make a choice as to whether or not the impacts of that development are supported by the long-range goal of using the opportunity here with the interstate highways to access a market area and develop a commercial center that meets the needs of the town and provides the kind of benefits that outweigh the impacts.
Yeah, I honestly think there has to be a bit of a study here, because you know, just, again, traveling around the state, for industrial uses, there's a minimum impact on the community. People get to work at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, they're dormant for the next 8 hours, and they're Xing out of there. If we start moving into commercial, you're pushing traffic through there 12 to 15 hours a day. That's really where I think the infrastructure needs to be studied, and saying, you know, do we have enough access points to get to all this expanded commercial?
I guess what I was looking for was some direction from the board saying it's worth the effort to put into this.
Well, how long will the study take?
It probably takes 6 months.
Then if that's the case, then this is a spring decision.
Right.
So I guess my position right now is that it should wait to the spring and get the study done. At least, I guess before we even make that decision, we can test the waters with some type of public hearing here to see if there's some objection or some constructive criticism on this. You know, it's either encouraging in some ways or not.
The only potential for new commercial is this strip right here.
Right, so now,
Everything else is changing the zoning to what's there.
okay,
This is William Crossing, this is the Walmart piece, and the solar fields, and William Marketplace.
right, so we're talking, again,
So
the
only new
Hostess,
potential
Wareham
for-
Pharmacy,
for commercial as opposed to industrial is this strip, and I don't know where you would wanna cut it off. I mean, I think from here, all this industrial would remain the same, because that's what it is, it's a part of the industrial park.
what is the most extreme point there? Is that the West Wareham Dunkin' Donuts?
But here,
Yeah,
no, that goes beyond. Here's Charlotte Furnace Road,
yeah,
and what I think this section up here used to be commercial strip, and they temporarily changed it for fear that mobile home parks were gonna turn into big box stores.
Yeah.
And I think this was just returning it to a commercial.
so, I have to, I'll repeat it one more time. I'm not opposed to that. My problem with that is the Cranberry Highway. We need, again, now we're back to a discussion with the state to say, if that was to develop all the way out the way it is, what type of improvements are we gonna get to that roadway? I think we bank a lot, you know, we conceptually think that everybody's coming off a highway and going to this one area. The traffic is coming through all the local road systems into West Wareham. I can see it just pulling out of the West Wareham Dunkin' Donuts in the morning. This morning I waited 10 minutes to take a left-hand turn coming out of there. So we have to really look at what can be done with the Cranberry Highway that far up. And if they're saying, you develop it, then we'll make the change, I don't think that's good enough, because we're gonna be living with a problem for 10 years before the state makes the improvements that we need.
Well, that's a good point, but along those lines, we have to look at what could be done there today, so we know what we're comparing it to. If you had, you know, industrial type uses there, what would the traffic be and what would the impact be?
Well, yeah, but, so,
I know what you're saying about retail being more traffic and.
oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you watch the amount of retail that comes out of the Walmart and Aldi's Plaza right now. That's very different than go park in the Wareham Industrial Park and work in the building for the next 8 hours, and we get a surge of a half an hour's worth of traffic, and it disperses, so, I think it's definitely worth exploring. Is there funding for the study outside of the town's coffers here? Can
We
get
have-
assistance
There's
from the
not.
state?
These maps were created by Serped under, yeah, the municipal work platform.
George, if I could make a comment about that strip commercial. The history of Wareham zoning is it goes back to 1950. And if you look at one of the original zoning maps, it was strip commercial from the Rochester line all the way to Buzzards Bay.
Yep.
On Cranberry Highway. It was 500 feet deep on both sides of the road until you got down to about Main Avenue and Onset, might have been before that, where everything got confined because of the railroad and Dick's Pond and in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And it got reduced down to 200 feet. That's 1950s thinking.
Yep.
To have a strip commercial zone like that up and down that highway. Today, you'll find that what a lot of people are doing is they're expanding in depth, but requiring, say, one entrance and pulling a lot of things together so that they're coming at one intersection.
Mm-hmm.
Pushing that back to MR30 all the way up, well, it doesn't go all the way up to the Rochester line, but majority of it does now, eliminates a lot of that as potential. And I think sort of addresses Mark's concern in a way, although a lot of the traffic that's up around the Dunkin' Donuts he's talking about, when I cross highway to get my paper in the morning and see the number of people that go Doty Street, they're going to 495.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, they're not going down to the traffic light that's east of down to 195. They're taking 28 all the way to Doty Street, getting on 495 and heading north. The traffic in that area in the morning is a lot, and it's been getting more and more as time goes on. Every year you see it increase a little bit, but that's where a lot of it's going. To expand the commercial area in a strip fashion doesn't help that circumstance very much.
No, not to mention everybody moving south to the Cape.
Right.
On season is just gonna get off they're getting off in the West Wareham exit. They're gonna be riding that Cranberry Highway down, you know, which doesn't really have any purpose right now. They can get gas at 7-Eleven, the Sunoco, get right back on the highway.
Yep.
But that now creates this draw for them to move towards us, which again, you know, you look at, my issue with going to town meeting here is we're so limited with open discussion, and it's such a big platform that I think, you know, focusing on the business owners, the residents that live over here in West Wareham, and getting some just FaceTime with them and feedback on what's going on. I'm only one resident sitting in that area. But if 100 people are coming back to us and saying, yes, it makes sense, but what are we doing about the expansion of the road systems? Does it have the power utility that we need? Which again, to your point in the depth, the issue with the Cranberry Highway is you're restricted by the telephone poles, right? You can't widen the way you want because the utility won't move off center and adjust those telephone poles or go underground with them. You end up with this choke point once you get past that West Wareham fire station where it narrows down into one lane again, where we're at telephone poles on both sides. So there has to be some buy-in from the utility companies to allow us to expand to this density, or it's just not going to work. I mean, we're everything that we've been working in a positive direction to make sure we don't repeat East Wareham can happen very quickly here.
Well, I think, was it Walmart used that utilities as an excuse because it would have delayed them if they, and it would have cost them a lot of money, but they could have moved them. I think as far as that goes, we should do more to make sure new site plans stop at the actual highway layout and not go into the layout.
Yeah, for sure, we can make those improvements.
But if nothing else, I think we should correct the situation that puts all that retail development in a non-conforming status. If you want to
Yeah,
additionally look at the zoning on the other. Do you remember when a lot of the strip commercial from one end to the other has disappeared? Do you remember when that?
Oh, that's happened over time
Yeah.
in several different iterations of the zoning map. It all didn't happen all at once. Originally, the map did when it was initiated in 1950. It was a nice solid black line, went all the way from Rochester to Buzzards Bay. But that's been broken up a number of times since then.
And if you look at our old use charts, you'd start with residential, and then commercial strip would say, anything you can do in residential plus. And then you get to industrial, it would say, anything you could do in strip commercial plus. So that's why you kind of have this hodgepodge of uses. And when retail uses were taken out of industrial, it changed the whole dynamic in that one little area, because they no longer had that luxury of building whatever they wanted in industrial.
So I agree that, the conditions that exist today, those can be presented for a fall meeting. That makes perfect sense. I mean, it's, the deal's done now. But changing this major strip here, I think we need to have a form of study. I don't know if I'm the only one that drives in that part of town, but the time it takes to pull out of Walmart and make a left-hand turn onto the 195 ramp, or to the 495-25 ramp, after hitting 4 lights, and then the choke that's happening down across from Morris Lumber and Mobile right now onto Main Street is just unbearable. It's not what we live in a small town community for. That type of traffic backup.
Ken, do you have any kind of a list in your office as to what types of uses are in the industrial park? I know there's transportation.
We had a industrial park study that gave us a list of the uses that are in there. And that could be used, I could hand that out.
What is the bright green at the tail end of the red there?
That's part of the,
Wareham Village 2 district.
that's R60, isn't it? Between 28 and Route 25?
The bright green down at the lower right is
Oh, that little tiny piece?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the center of town.
part of the Wareham
That's the
Village
village
2
district. Yeah.
So, what, yeah, I know we're donating so much time and energy to this, but I really think it would be beneficial for us to, just go out and view this at some point as a group and just group think out there, on site on what that looks like.
We could do that with a subcommittee of the planning board.
Yeah. I think, that would be helpful.
Are you able to shade these things differently, or do we need a different
No, I can get the
format to do that?
graphics done.
Well, I could probably even volunteer myself to just do, in a 5-minute video clip, you could take this whole journey and what this looks like.
Depends on whether you hit the lights right or not.
Yeah, could take 10
I'll do it at 5 o'clock in the morning.
What's irritating is you go by at 11:30 at night, everything's closed, but the light changes.
There's also this area in West Wareham that came under that same zoning designation, going from CS to general commercial district.
Is that the wedge from 58 to 25, or 495? Is that the corner I'm seeing there?
That's County Road on the northwest. That's Route 25 or 495 on the northeast. It goes to,
495 and 53, County Road.
on the southeast, it's at Carver Road North, which is at where Eversource stores all their trucks.
Mm-hmm.
Then it goes to Main Street on the backside.
And the 500 feet back from 28 that we're seeing.
Well, it includes a lot of that, yeah.
Now, didn't that leave, when that was changed before, didn't that leave, left pieces in strip commercial?
These pieces weren't addressed in the article.
Yeah.
these pieces here. And it was shown on the map as being changed to MR30, but did not include that in the description of the zoning article.
Charlie, explain it one more time. County Road to the northeast?
Yeah, the westerly side is County Road.
Okay.
And 58. Actually, it doesn't go County Road the entire way.
We've gone over the overpass now. We're heading towards Carver.
Yeah, there's that wedge in there, which is the Rochester-Wareham line.
Do we have any commercial businesses there right now?
Yeah, Roby's is up there. And you've got the
Movie theater.
movie theater, which is at the intersection.
Yeah, okay, so
Are the,
Eversource, the gas station, there's a used car lot.
But
are the
that's not at the
zoning
line.
designations cast in concrete, Ken? The zoning designations are cast in concrete?
No, the good thing about zoning designations is they can be changed.
And, I mean, were they established on the basis of economics, or how do they come to be?
It's an interesting question, and it differs depending on how the town approaches zoning. You know, as they originally had come in and, as Charlie said, had the 500-foot distance back from the highway all along the road as the commercial district. Whereas nowadays, you want to have an understanding of what the development potential is and how development occurs, and adjust your zoning accordingly, so you get what you want out of the uses.
but you can't take back the prior use or the prior zoning. That's grandfathered in.
You can,
Correct.
Right.
The
If someone-
change in zoning does
you can
not
change the zoning to anything you want if you go to town meeting.
I know, but you can't reverse the prior zoning. Meaning, if we go,
If there's a use there, as long as it exists, it's grandfathered, if that's what you mean.
right,
As
so
an
if we go back to
example,
West Wareham and we talk about the truck dealership,
Yeah.
we can't touch that.
yeah, as an example, if you change this all to MR30, all the commercial districts commercial uses would remain and would be protected under zoning.
The intent back then, that was with the zoning rewrite and a lot of stuff going on, was to replace commercial strip with either commercial planned, commercial general, or we even have another placeholder called neighborhood commercial, which gave us, I think, better design standards to work with. It changed some of the uses, or it was a more documented uses. It wasn't anything you can do here plus. It was, this is what you can do.
One of the things about that whole area, if you go back to the, just north of Tremont Pond there, where it splits off with Doty Street going sort of up the page, and then you've got Cranberry Highway going to the left. You've got the little Speedy Mart, then you've got the little gas station, you've got a used car lot, and then the next commercial piece that you see, if you want a commercial piece, is the Plymouth County Courthouse, and then you've got the gas station on the corner, but in between is residential. On the south side of the road, starting at that same intersection, you've got the little church on the corner, and you've got the big building, which is Roby's, which has South Shore Hearth in it, or his business is there's a body shop there, and used furniture. And then from that point, it's residential all the way up to the bank, which is was it Plymouth County Credit Union?
Teachers union.
Yeah, and now there's a potential used car lot next to the Monument Place, which is at the intersection. One of the things which would be nice would be, as the people in West Wareham gathered to talk about this a number of years ago, was the fact that the majority of this area is not commercial, it's residential. It would be nice if there was some sort of uses included in that which would be complementary to the residential neighborhood. Not just a convenience store, but something else which might be compatible with a, small, low intensity, which could go there, which would supplement people not having to travel as far to go to get certain things. It used to be that way. Of course, with the box stores and malls and everything coming in, the individual little markets and so forth disappeared. But
That's,
to have mixed use that would allow something like that, and I'm not
Mhm.
suggesting, box stores go back in there, I wouldn't want to see it. Claire's sitting here, I don't think she would either. Is that you too, Howie?
Do you know, I guess one consideration here is what is Rochester's intention with that piece where, so RF Morris, is that the greenhouse?
Yeah, that's, I believe that's commercially zoned now.
yeah.
And it's commercially zoned for that entire corner. And that's why they were able to put that Seasons gas station in there.
Yeah.
What I always saw, the neighborhood commercial zone that didn't get finished, was for that type of use, where you have low-intensity businesses that would not detract from the residential, like tradespeople, maybe a small office or a landscape or somebody, that type of thing. You can use that as a buffer between residential and more intense uses.
Provided the bylaws are written in such a way that what you saw was a reflection of the
Mhm.
residential community. In other words, we've got a couple of metal buildings in the area right now. I don't think we need any more. The residences and a lot of their architecture reflects things that go back into the 20s, not too much before that time, but if buildings are designed, whether they're for, say, a medical office or a doctor's office or a law office or some other insurance business or something like that, that didn't attract a lot of construction-type equipment lying around and that sort of thing, could complement the neighborhood. Even a small market, I'm not talking the size of an Aldi's, something smaller than that even, but something that would be complementary to a neighborhood like it used to be. Just something to think about, that's all.
That's why I think being able to sit down with the plan and discussing this is necessary. I don't see avoiding a repeat of East Wareham at this point. I just,
Well, I think that was kind of the reasoning behind eliminating commercial strips, so you could have a little more control over what went in there architecturally and aesthetically.
What section of town did we zone this neighborhood commercial?
Say again?
The neighborhood commercial?
Yeah, it was a placeholder. It's in the zoning bylaw, but there's no use chart with it, and there's no description. Because at that particular time, they created general commercial and planned commercial, and the neighborhood commercial never got finished. But I always saw it as a less intensive commercial use. So when you have somebody that may be working out of their home and they've grown out of that, and it's too much for a residential neighborhood, but it fits in somewhere between residential and commercial, where you're not bothering your neighbors. You may have more cars parked during the day, or
You know, who's a great example of that is over in West Wareham is it, what's the insurance company, GH?
Charles Dunn, Dunn
yeah.
Insurance?
Yeah, that's a nice conversion there, it's, you
Well,
know, 10
that started
parking
out as
spots.
that started out as a law office and then got converted over. It's still a law office on the top floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the type of accompaniment you want there, right?
Yeah, because it's neighborhood friendly. There, a lot of people in the area use that for their insurance business, insurance purposes. So something similar to that on that style. It looks like a residence from the outside. You'd never know it was a business just going by it, except for the sign.
The same with the Plymouth County Teachers Credit Union. It's a valuable asset.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go to the bank without having to go downtown, you know?
Yeah, I just, man, I'm all over the place, but we just need to be so careful. If you go to North Dartmouth, like, all that construction they did on that overpass, because they allowed a hotel there, they allowed a 99 restaurant, they allowed all this strip commercial there. Did you guys experience all that? That was nearly 2 years of
Yeah,
construction.
and if you go north on Fons Corner Road there with all of the businesses and so forth that have grown up there, the traffic in that
Right.
area is tremendous.
And you know, we just don't have that type of real estate. And, you know, if they knew that type of volume was going to build, and we're probably building 5 times that volume with what's going in West Wareham right now, because that mall does not have the appeal to today's buyer
Right.
that these large box stores have. So, you know, that's one area. The other area I was in was up in Marshfield, Duxbury area. There's a big Christmas tree shop there.
Route
That's
139.
That's a whole, it's a Hanover Mall.
139, yeah.
That's a whole nother area that's backed up. And they just,
Yeah.
they allowed them to build right up to the curb there, and there's nowhere else to change that behavior. So,
Well, there's one thing that we're sort of stuck with, and one of them is the interchange with 195 and 495. You could see Wareham Crossing coming in time, and it took place, and then now that we've seen the Rosebrook area even make that even more desirable, in time, I think you'll probably see the same thing happen at County Road. Now that Rochester has that commercial section, you'll see that sort of same thing happen. But maybe something to consider, too, is that the way that people shop might have some influence on what sort of buildings and so forth go up.
what I'm saying
With a
is
lot
that,
more of
you know-
internet shopping and, you know, you're doing things online, you're not going to big box stores, although it's nice to have Lowe's and Walmart close by.
But is that what the community wants? You know, or we can continue to accommodate retail business? It's so dependent on the economy, as opposed to building sustainable industrial parks, manufacturing, transportation companies,
Yep.
medical services, you know.
Well, the reason I asked about what industry and what and so forth was in the industrial park was whether or not in time we might see that sort of transition into some other kinds of uses rather than the typical industrial use.
Right. Right.
Well, one option we have is to, as you were talking about design, is look at it from the idea of design guidelines as to whether or not the uses are an issue in terms of transportation impact, the visual impact, and the general impact of development can be controlled by properly constructed design guidelines. In the strategic plan that was developed previously by the West Wareham neighborhood, there was a series of design guidelines that were proposed. And this is something that Emmanuel and I have been discussing as an option to beef up the design guidelines within the zoning regulations. One way this can be approached, and the example I think you had about the insurance company that was done in Falmouth was that we said if you maintain the existing residential structure, the existing structure on the property, you can have any use that you want within that. So commercial uses could be cited within the residential building so long as the residential building was maintained. And that's been successful on Palmer Avenue in the entrance to Falmouth on 28.
So long as the residential structure can meet the building code for use.
Yes, there'd have to be some modifications for access, egress.
So if you were to buy a residential home and said, I wanted to run a law office out of there, we'd be subject to the building code and all the current requirements of that.
There'd be different uses, assembly requirements, different use requirements under the building code require different standards of construction. There's potential that they'd have to put sprinklers in, depending on the size and the use type that's in there. That's what you mean.
Yeah, the idea would be that you wouldn't know the difference from the outside.
Right.
It maintains that sort of a character. Rather than putting up a tin building, you've got a building which looks like it fits into the neighborhood. That type of thing. But clearly, yeah, you'd have to upgrade it according to current code, and you'd also have to consider parking, traffic, and all of that, because if you go from a residence to some sort of a commercial use, clearly your traffic is going to be different. So.
I mean, what is the financial gain to the town for all of this commercial use? Is it real estate tax?
That's part of it. It's economic development is jobs, taxes, and development. It's taking vacant properties and making a use out of them. It's making a use that has potential for local hiring of jobs, and it also has an opportunity for tax benefits greater than the residential development.
I mean, but out of operating a business in this town, the piece that we get to keep is the real estate tax. The income tax, we'll get some return back on the income tax, but it's first going to go to state level and then get pushed back down to us. We can grab some from the excise tax on the business.
That's right, and if you're creating wealth among people with better jobs, you're increasing the local economy.
Well, but then, so this goes into a bigger discussion saying, what is the better job? Because if we're talking about a typical retail job, is that creating a certain demographic? And can we even house that increased demand? I mean, because our unemployment, where are we right now statewide? Are we below that 4% threshold?
Pretty low,
right?
I think,
so
right now.
we're in pretty good shape
Yeah.
employment-wise. So who are we creating these jobs for? Is to bring outsiders in to the town, and then does the town have the capacity to house these folks?
A few years back, there was a study done, I think, by Economic Development, and it illustrated just that. People like to tie subdivisions and stuff into school enrollment, and what has the biggest impact on school enrollment and housing is jobs. If there's jobs here, you bring people here. And that affects everything.
Yeah, but we're in this constant struggle with affordable housing and available land that can be developed. I mean, how many? What is it? So my bigger question is why I'm asking the master plan is what is the potential growth on available real estate in this town for another 2,000 people in this town? At some point, we reach a saturation that we can't sustain.
But that logic is why we took retail out of the industrial. We didn't want to see better paying manufacturing and industrial jobs thrown out the window for minimum wage retail jobs.
Right, right.
You know, in looking at the West Wareham design guidelines, and I think that they are from 2006, they're really great recommendations.
Mhm.
It appears that they have not been implemented, so that's why I think it's important if we sit down and specifically try to incorporate these recommendations. And I agree, I think it can't be done for the fall. I think it's gonna have to be a spring meeting target. But the work's been done, you know, in terms of the thought that went into it. It just remains, I think it's up to us at this time to take the opportunity to implement them. Otherwise, we're gonna end up with East Wareham.
I think one of the things I can do is send around that report to the members of the planning board, so you get a chance to read through it and see if it addresses a lot of your concerns regarding the impact of development and how the development should occur in West Wareham.
It's funny, I was in New Hampshire over the weekend and saw quite a few very attractive metal or combination wood and metal buildings that anybody would be happy to drive by and through every day.
Yeah.
They're not the space metal buildings, the cans that we're used to seeing, but
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, the face of the town is,
that's what happens when you've been here a while. You go around taking pictures of other buildings and neighborhoods.
yeah, no, and I think it's an excellent exercise, but it's,
It's not bad looking.
this the one they just put in Carver?
Huh? Yeah, no, that's in, I mean, you're right. A well-designed building using metal is perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's that horrible thing that just went up on Route 6 on Cranberry Highway that can't have any more of those. This one is in,
That's not the one on 58 in Carver?
no, it's in, I'm sorry, can you read that? It's too dark. Anyway,
Shammer Lane International School, Bridgewater?
it's well done.
So for the work plan, moving ahead, can I make a recommendation for next planning board meeting after you get a chance to read through the strategic plan for West Wareham? And we can discuss as to whether or not we could accomplish something by fall town meeting or spring town meeting.
Mm-hmm. And possibly if we could change the shading on that map to show what would actually be changed.
I see what you mean, yeah. Show the delta.
Mm.
Okay,
And then if you want to eliminate a section of it or enhance it, then we get a better handle on what we're dealing with.
right.
Like Charlie pointed out, you wouldn't want to bring a commercial district all the way down to Main Street across from Deacon School. Yeah, other than it already does exist in a small area, you wouldn't want to, you'd want to change what's there to what's on the ground.
Right. To take that existing industrial district and rezone to what's on the ground as the first
Yeah,
phase.
see what the depth of those lots are and then,
They're all pretty small, George, down there.
you can see they're all staggered, they're all a little bit different.
Yeah.
So if it's 100 feet back, just to keep, you wouldn't want a driveway coming down from William Crossing out on the main street over there.
No, no, and you couldn't now anyway, because the drainage area is between it and the road, and there's no access there.
All right. Does that sound good?
What about the subcommittees?
Yeah, who wants to be on a subcommittee? I know Emmanuel wants to, because he wants to do design guidelines.
I'm happy to, yeah.
What's your intention there? To just tail it off of this meeting here an hour earlier or something?
No, I think, well.
Well, we can
I'm
arrange it,
available to sit, I mean,
What works for,
I thought we'd sit in your office, so we could do it earlier here too if we want.
Yeah, I'll help out. I can't make a... Well, let me know what your schedule is.
I can be flexible, so you tell me.
Yeah.
all right, the other,
But before the next meeting, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, in the interim, if we plan on meeting for 6 o'clock before the next meeting, we can at least start the
Sure.
conversation. I don't know if this fellow Mike King is interested.
the other I wanted to touch on was the transfer of development rights, just to get your input, because it was suggested by one of the Board of Selectmen to reconsider what was written in the bylaw, so make it usable or worth using. Transfer of development rights is where you take development from one parcel and place it on another, so that the first parcel on the left has no development, and the one on the right has the development plus what was calculated as the development potential of that one on the left. Under the TDR zoning in town, these are the sending areas. Those areas where you can send development rights to another location.
The yellow area was, right? Or now the white area.
All of those areas. The white areas are the ones that don't have, which are the industrial districts and the downtown districts and the institutional district, do not have the ability to send development to another location.
How was that identified by R130, R60, that, I
That's
forget?
right.
I've forgotten the finer points.
Yeah, it was based on the zoning district.
There was
And
also,
so-
there was also a minimum on the lot size too, I think, George,
Yeah,
the minimum 5 acres.
And these are the receiving areas that are allowed. And the big difference between them that I notice is the commercial strip zoning district. Which is, can be used under a sending area, but not a receiving area. Which I think is not necessarily the best idea. I think what you want to do is have more intensive development in their commercial areas.
well, part of the commercial strip was a receiving area, like along Cranberry Highway in East Wareham. I believe the old Ocean Spray site was
Not
a receiving area.
No, not the way it's written.
Can you explain this? Give me an example.
Say you had a lot, an area on the watershed, on the aquifer, the R130, and you wanted to transfer those, let's say, 10 lots, the rights to build 10 lots on R130 to somewhere that already had roadway and services. The town would benefit by not having additional infrastructure to take care of. They would protect the watershed, and the developer would benefit by not having to build all that roadway, and building within existing streets, and so you could increase the density of the receiving area with these, say, 10 lots.
Who owns the receiving area?
There was a couple different receiving areas, different owners, but
Could be anybody.
yeah, I think the minimum was, did the receiving area have to be 5 acres too? I don't remember.
I don't think so. But it was restricted in terms of the sending area because that way you would be eliminating somebody with a little 1 acre lot of sending that 1 acre lot to somewhere else. It was intended to establish more open space. What it does for the sending area is it restricts perpetually, forever, that area from being developed. What you're doing, Billy, is selling your development rights to someone else who purchases them and transfers those development rights, whatever it might have been, say 10 lots that George is talking about. You're taking those 10 lots and you're transferring it to some other zone, some other area where you could incorporate that into your development. And it would then allow for more open space within the town, reduce the amount of infrastructure expansion like George is talking about, and it does protect it. You can't go back and retrieve those later on. Once you've sold them, it's gone. Sort of like, it's almost like a conservation restriction in a way. You cannot use conservation land. It's only land that could be built on. So you have to develop a plan at the beginning to see that 10 lots are actually feasible and could be developed under the subdivision control law. And then you have the potential for selling that to someone else.
Does the receiving area have to be consistent with zoning, though? Or can you exceed?
No.
this?
No, I don't recall that it had to be consistent with the zoning. No.
I'm sorry?
No, I don't believe it did. You could transfer it, one of the things that present bylaw does, it eliminated the R130 district as a sending area, because that entire area is already protected because of the lot size. It's 3 acre zoning up there. So to transfer something out of that makes no sense. But to some of the smaller areas, like the MR30, the R60, the R43, if you had 5 acres of land and you didn't want to develop that, but you were willing to sell that and somebody wanted to buy those rights, you could do it and transfer those to some other zoned area. But it wouldn't necessarily have to be in the same zone.
And generally, the receiving parcel got a higher density.
Yeah.
Then would be allowed by zoning.
So we never implemented this?
Oh, it's
No, we
there.
implemented it, but we took away a lot of the incentives that were proposed, which I think discouraged some of the use.
So never successfully transferred.
Ken, what is it that some of the concerns have been? What do they want to put into it now?
Well, partly, one of the issues is that you can't, it's hard to find a sender and a receiver, 2 different parcels of land, to have that density transferred over. So one of the suggestions was, such as what Plymouth has done, is create a land bank where the development potential could be put into a bank, or the restriction against development could be put into a bank, so that the development potential doesn't actually have to be implemented for a sending area or a receiving area. It could be that you put a conservation restriction on a piece of land and you save your development rights to be able to sell to somebody else.
One of the one of the applications we've had in recent years is where the town, through either conservation or the land trust, has purchased development rights from somebody who's put they've retained ownership of the land, but they put a conservation restriction on it. This may avail them an additional incentive and possibly reduce the selling price if they're gonna have building rights to sell elsewhere.
Right. So that was one of the thoughts, and apparently AD Makepeace has taken advantage of the land bank, transfer development rights land bank in Plymouth. And the thought was they could use that here as well, too.
How would that benefit the individual who had the development rights that he wanted to transfer? Would he not get remuneration for those transfer rights if it goes into the land bank?
The mechanism would be that they would store that development potential, say.
Right now, to execute the TDR, you have to have a sender and a receiver.
Right.
So what this would do is say, the sender is gonna put these over here until the receiver comes along and buys them.
I can't see where that would be of any benefit to the sender. The intent of that would be if somebody's got 5 or 10 acres that they really don't want to see any development on, but they don't mind selling the development rights to somebody else, they want to get something in return for that. So why would they put it into a land bank where they may or may not see any return for 5 or 10 years?
But if they're already, like I know one particular case that came up to us rather late in the game was the transfer of development rights. They were selling the property, or I don't know just whether it was a conservation restriction or a conveyance to the state forest, and they'd have nothing to lose by taking the development rights and leaving them over here for a later sale. If you sell it, it's all bonus. If you don't,
Well, in that case, it was an issue where they were transferring to themselves, essentially, weren't they?
yeah,
Isn't that
well,
the conveyance that went to the state out of some of the Makepeace property was up next to the town line?
but at the 11th hour, they came in to see if they could transfer the development rights, but there was no bank. They had no place to put them. So it would have been an additional benefit to the sale.
I suppose you could add that feature. I wouldn't want it to see it necessarily take the place of what's in the,
I'd like to
bylaw
see
right now.
how Plymouth is doing it that
Yeah.
makes it advantageous.
yeah.
A lot of what was, when we went through the TDR, a lot of what was proposed was very one-sided. And I think when a lot of that stuff went away, so did the desire to do it.
So what I can do is get a copy of the Plymouth TDR bank criteria and see how it looks
Mm-hmm.
for the town of Wareham.
Yeah, I'd like to know what is it about Plymouth's regulation that makes it work, that,
Right.
do they do a bank over there?
They do.
And who brokers it, do you know?
No, I don't know the details. Easy enough to make a call, though, and find out.
Mm-hmm. You know, with
Yeah, I think you'd
But
put the
the
lights
large-
on now.
residential project going on in town. I don't
Thanks,
think
Howard.
the town would be willing to look at others, even. Oh, it's you.
So what's the question at hand again? It's just to
You
consider
want to take
this,
a look at the TDR regulation?
but right now, the only interest in our community and right now in this is 80 Makepeace. Has anybody else approached you on this since it's been dormant?
No.
There were a lot of inquiries from guys that had small pieces, you know. I know I got questioned, you know, a guy would have 1, 2 lots. If I give these lots to the town, can I move the rights over here? And it wasn't really the bylaw doesn't address that.
That's why a limit was put on it.
So is it worth spending a little time on this as well?
And one of the things that, one of the discussions with TDR was if you talk about an extensive development of large, you know, parcels of land, how much does that infrastructure cost? And that cost was not being shared with the towns, so to speak.
Can't help to think that's it's something you need a very smart lawyer to help you solve.
What was that?
You need somebody legally thinking about this transfer and the benefits of the overall piece.
It's okay. Taking my stuff here.
Typically what happens
Kind of like
is,
the previous discussion, we would take all that development and put it down on our already crowded existing roads.
Right.
I know, around the time of the zoning and this discussion with the West Wareham strategic plans, the major increase in the traffic in West Wareham was the residential development. Before, you'd be on Main Street in West Wareham, you might see a car or two an hour, now it's a minute.
Yeah, but that's not due to the residential development in that area. It's due to the traffic that's trying to get to 495 and the area around the Walmart in that section.
But there's more,
There's
I
no
forget how
question
many
about what-
houses been.
There's more question about what there's more traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it's due to the residential development that's taken place, but when you consider the impact of Wareham Crossing and Walmart and the traffic that's using 28 just to get to the highway to get north,
Mm-hmm.
if we didn't have any development at all up in that quadrant locally, you'd still see a tremendous amount because of that.
It's like that railroad bridge in South Wareham, it's like a gate, it keeps the big trucks from going through.
Well, some. Yeah,
Some of them go partway through, but
that way, yeah.
Why, there's a sign going right under that bridge that says pothole. Why didn't we just fix the pothole?
Well,
Why
it did.
we
It's all-
invest in the
it's all
sign?
paved now.
It's all paved now, so what are we gonna do, put the sign on eBay? What-
Yeah.
what-
No, just move it to the
Why
next,
did we buy a sign that said pothole instead of filling the pothole?
it'll,
My wife and I drove by there the other day, and
it'll
come
get
on,
used again.
never.
Anything else, Ken?
that's it for me.
Anything from the board?
No.
Next meeting, July 9th? Anybody care to make a motion?
I move that we adjourn?
Second?
I had trouble getting a second that time. Okay, all in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned at 8:50.